Hey, I'm Joy. Cinema is not just a pastime, at least for some of us. It's a passion. Just a world of infinite possibilities where creativity, technology, and visual art come together in magical ways. Can you imagine a world without movies now? It's hard to picture, isn't it? Even today, in the age of TikTok, YouTube, and Reels, movies rule the entertainment world. At any given moment, billions of people watch films. They might watch them on a giant IMAX screen or a small cell phone screen of just of a few inches wide. Isn't it amazing? Today, the number of people watching and making movies is on the rise. And why not? You can shoot, edit, dub, score music, and even find a market and release it. It's an era of movies. Let me ask you one thing. As a film buff, have you ever wondered about the origin of movies? How did it all start? Which was the first film ever created on Earth? And who made it? How? When? How did it become such a popular and powerful medium and steal your heart? Sometimes the stories behind the scenes are even more fascinating than what we see on screen. Behind the scenes, plenty of talented people, interesting incidents, and thrilling stories are waiting to be shared. Let's begin at the beginning with the tale of a curious man, his horse, a bet, and a talented photographer who unexpectedly changes the course of history. Here we explore the magic of movies from their earliest days to the present. Welcome to the joy of cinema. Now let's picture this. As the camera slowly pans across dusty racetrack, we see a man standing there at the rail. This is the man, the great Leland Stanford, one of the two characters of our story. Born in 1824 in New York, he is an industrialist, politician, and a pivotal figure in California's development. He has served as the governor of California and is one of the founders of the renowned Stanford University in America. As you can see, he is as busy as a bee. Yet today he is consumed by his passion, horse racing. As the horses gallop, Stanford's eyes sparkle with curiosity and excitement. He isn't merely watching the race. He is observing and analyzing every moment of his horse on the racetrack. Suddenly he notices something extraordinary happens. The horses seem to be leaping with all the four legs lifting off the ground. For brief moments they appear to be flying through the air. He watches them closely again and again for confirmation. After a few rounds, the race concludes. He realizes that the horses can fly. Stanford can no longer contain his excitement. He rushes to share his discovery with his buddies. These aren't just ordinary men, they are the educated, influential, and powerful figures of California. Stanford expects admiration. But here's where the story takes its first turn, first twist. His friends don't believe him at all. They laugh and say that he's saying things. He's crazy. One of his friends, a millionaire California newspaper owner, challenges Stanford's idea and begins shaping opinion among friends against the flying horse theory. But Stanford stands firm. After heated arguments, the newspaper owner makes a bet with Stanford, putting a whooping $25,000 at stake. $25,000. In the 1860s, this sum might have been equivalent to 25 million or even more today. The newspaper owner is certain that a horse cannot fly, arguing that at least one of its legs must remain on the ground to support its weight. It's plain logic. But Stanford is very sure that horses can fly. Money doesn't concern Stanford. He wants to prove his theory. So he accepts the challenge. But there's a problem. There is a real problem. The horse runs so fast that the human eye cannot catch its legs in motion. So both merely saying and showing do not find a place in the picture. Yet it has to be proved beyond any doubt. Stanford is pensive, but finds no way to overcome the situation. Days and months pass without any solution. At last, one day, he gets an unprecedented idea: capture the horse's motion in a photograph, clearly showing every movement of its legs. Now, this isn't a small task at all. Capturing a horse's leg in motion in a photograph is nearly impossible in an era before cinematography, of course, when even still photography was in its infancy. But Stanford realizes that a camera can see what the naked eye can't and freeze time in its frames. In other words, the time and event in the photo taken will remain the same forever. And what is captured in the camera is nothing but the absolute truth. That's a pretty remarkable insight. Finally, he decides to experiment that way. Stanford is probably one of the first individual in the world to think about moving images or motion picture. Maybe some photographers have also thought about it at some point. We don't know. Now it has become a necessity for him. He urgently needs the help of a good photographer. He starts looking for the same and is completely convinced that things are not easy. He could not locate the desired photographer, and the time is running out. If you were born before the 1980s, you might remember using film cameras and how difficult it was to take a photograph and print it. It was a long and complicated process. The photographer could not even know whether they got the picture until it is developed and printed. Remember, this is happening 150 years ago. He begins to look for a talented photographer who is ready to share his dream. And this is where the next character enters into our story. It's none other than Eadweard Muybridge. Remember this name, Eadweard Muybridge. He is one of the most famous nature photographers of the time. He wins the gold medal at the 1873 Vienna Photography Exhibition. Perhaps it's then that Stanford remembers him. The image of an unattractive man with a long beard and hair, wearing shabby clothes carelessly. One may even mistake him as a mentally unstable person. Yet, it was he who showed Stanford sides that he could not see with his naked eyes through photography. And he is the one who froze in time on frame for him while taking photographs for railway tracks. Stanford recollects everything related to the photographer and feels that Muybridge is the photographer he was looking for. At that time, Muybridge was traveling through the American West for another project in his own one-horse carriage, which he had transformed into a moving studio now. Stanford wasted no time to contact Muybridge. After explaining the concept, Stanford offers $2,000 to materialize it. It's a huge amount. Muybridge is still reluctant because he is fully aware of the limitations of the photographic technology of the time. Cameras and photographic plates are not good enough to catch a moment, let alone a horse that can run about 60 feet per second. It's impossible to capture that speed. And seemingly impossible to capture the hooves of the horse in motion. Everyone knows it, including Stanford. But there is no other way. Despite the photographer's initial refusal, Stanford keeps meeting with him. He tries to inspire him by saying that only you can achieve this seemingly impossible task. He further encourages him to give it a shot and promises to provide all the financial support needed for the project. Eventually, Muybridge agrees to take it on, and Stanford leaves a sigh of relief. Over time, they develop a strong friendship. The project becomes a joint venture between a wealthy, adventurous governor and a talented and ambitious photographer. Muybridge, the experimental photographer, faces two main challenges at that point of time. First, the shutter speed. As you may be aware, shutter speed is the length of time a camera's shutter remains open, which determines how much light the camera's sensor is exposed to. is one of the three main factors that determines exposure, along with aperture and ISO means sensitivity. Aperture controls how much light enters, and shutter speed controls how long light enters the camera. ISO controls how sensitive the camera is to light. Please remember that the shutter speed of the day was longer than 2 seconds. That means it takes more than 2 seconds to form an image on the photographic plate. And without increasing the shutter speed, any object in motion cannot be captured on the photographic plate. In other words, it should be also understood that the sensitivity of the photo plates was low. Second, how to capture motion in a single frame. He experimented with multiple exposures superimposed on a single negative in an attempt to capture movement, although this particular endeavor did not yield the desired results. At last, he understands that one frame is not enough to create motion. He works tirelessly to find a way. Progress is slow. And Stanford soon realizes that the project requires more time and funding than initially anticipated. But that doesn't matter. He is ready to move forward, and that inspires the photographer. He takes the first picture of the running horse in 1873 itself, but the image is unclear. He realizes the issue is the quality, the low quality of the photographic plate, and the camera's shutter speed is also very low. After many experiments, he is determined to capture the perfect shot. Stanford continues to push Muybridge, and eventually, after much experimentation, the breakthrough comes when Muybridge succeeds in increasing the shutter speed to faster than a second. And then our story takes another crucial turn, another twist. Drama strikes again. Amid the project, Muybridge suddenly disappears from the scene. He takes a break and goes to visit his wife and does not come back, does not return. That was quite unexpected. Muybridge disappeared without any notice and was gone for a long time. Stanford was left in shock and found himself helpless, having no one to replace Muybridge. Stanford even heard rumors that Muybridge had committed a murder and was imprisoned, and on enquiry finds it's true, which throws him into a desperate situation. But he can't afford to sit idle. He needs the photographer back at any cost. It is said that Stanford assisted in securing defense for Muybridge in the court, who was eventually acquitted on the grounds of justifiable homicide and instant insanity. We will explore Muybridge's story in another video as it deserves. Anyway, now Stanford and Muybridge are together again and they restart their project. And this time Muybridge could increase the shutter speed to faster than a second. By now he realized that a single camera was not good enough to photograph movement. Multiple cameras were needed. Stanford orders the best cameras from New York and the most advanced lenses from London on behalf of the photographer. He experiments using multiple cameras to capture each stage of the horse's movement and smells victory. He photographs Stanford's horse named Occident, hitched to a two-wheeled cart driven by Jas Tannen, and in its path were 12 tripwires, each connected to a different camera. As the horse gallops, the wheels of the cart rolls over each wire, and the shutters of the camera open one after another, capturing the different stages of the horse movement. Thus, Muybridge overcomes the last obstacle, and now they are all set to create history. At last, Leland Stanford declares a historical date, 19th of June 1878. Remember that date? 19th of June 1878, and the venue Palo Alto Racecourse in California. He invited journalists from all over America to witness the historical event. The rival group also arrived to see Stanford's defeat, and a huge crowd gathers there eager to see the incident and, of course, to see the ultimate winner. Stanford and Muybridge had extensively prepared at Stanford's racetrack. They drew a large white curtain over the background, painted all the walls white, and spread white marble dust and lime on the ground. This created a higher contrast, ensuring that Stanford's dark colored horse galloping against the white background would be visible in the photographs. A dozen cameras were lined up like cannons on a war front, ready to shoot the dashing horse. At last, the horse Sally Gardner appeared at the mark and waited for the signal. Muybridge gave the final signal. The crowd held their breath as the horse galloped down the track. The shutters of the cameras opened one after another, capturing different stages of the horse's movement. The shutter speed was faster than a second, 1/1000 of a second to be exact. Finally, the photographs of the horse running became a reality. For the first time, every detail of the horse run, including the position of its feet, which the naked eye could not see, was captured in photographs. It was clear beyond any doubt that all four legs of the horse lifted off the ground, giving Stanford the proof he needed. One or two images in particular showed all four of Sally Gardner's hooves lifted off the ground simultaneously, a sight that had been the subject of debate for years. Initially, the world is skeptical again. Many dismiss the images as impossible or fraudulent, unable to believe what they are saying. Muybridge, however, is prepared for this reaction. He meticulously explains the process to the press and public, showcasing the negatives as proof of his achievement. As the truth of the photograph's accomplishment spreads, it makes headlines across the nation. Stanford not only wins a substantial bet of $25,000, but also realizes a lifelong dream of capturing his beloved horse's movement on film. More importantly, this experiment lays the foundation of motion pictures, movies. Muybridge's invention of series photography marks the first crucial step toward filmmaking. This breakthrough reveals the fundamental principle behind motion picture, the illusion of movement created by a rapid sequence of still images. When today movies operate the same basic principle, relying on persistence of vision, the eye's ability to retain an image for a fraction of a second after it disappears from sight, to create the illusion of continuous motion. It opened the door to an entirely new art form and industry that would captivate the world for generations to come. The series of photographs known as The Horse in Motion, created by Muybridge in 1878, is often debated in terms of its classification as the first film. While it is not a film in a traditional sense of continuous motion picture, it represents a crucial step in the development of motion picture technology. These images, when viewed in a quick succession, create the illusion of motion and be considered an early form of motion picture. By demonstrating how individual images could be merged to depict movement, Muybridge's work significantly influenced the development of cinematography. It's amazing to think that modern cinema, with its special effects and epic storytelling, can trace its roots back to a simple bet about a running horse. From here, cinema explodes. Thomas Alva Edison enters with his kinetoscope. The Lumiere brothers invent the cinematograph and hold the first public commercial film screening. Alice Guy Blanchet begins making fiction films, and George Méliès create fantastical world films. But before all that, we have to learn more about Eadweard Muybridge, the forefather of movies. His life is as dramatic as a thriller movie. Let's join on the next video to know him a bit closer. This video concludes here. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share it with fellow movie lovers. Thank you, and until we meet again, ciao.